Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Spandau Ballet. Spandau Ballet are an English band formed in London in 1979. The band were inspired by, and an integral part of, the electro movement. They became one of the most successful groups to emerge during the New Romantic era. The band's classic lineup features brothers Gary Kemp and Martin Kemp on guitars, vocalist Tony Hadley, saxophonist Steve Norman, and drummer John Keeble. The group's debut single, To Cut a Long Story Short, which reached number 5 in the UK in 1980, was the first of 10 UK top 10 hits, including a number 1 single, True, a number 2 single, Gold, and 2 number 3 singles, Chant No. 1 and Only When You Leave. The band have had 8 UK top 10 albums, including 3 greatest hits compilations and an album of re-recorded material. At the height of their popularity in 1984, they received the Brit Award for technical excellence. The band split in 1990 and the members pursued solo careers, with both Kemp brothers winning acting roles. Since their reformation in 2009, the band have been recognized at the Q Awards, and Gary Kemp's songwriting has been honored by the Ivor Novello Awards. 1976-1982, formation and early success. The band was formed in 1976 as The Cut, with Gary Kemp and Steve Norman on guitar, later saxophone and percussion. Kemp and Norman were attending Dame Alice Owen's school in Islington, North London, and were close friends, as they shared a similar interest in music and a common desire to form a band. They were joined by fellow student John Keeble, who met Norman when he stored his drum kit in the school's music room, and the three met regularly at lunch times to practice. They were joined by bass player Michael Ellison and by Tony Hadley, who knew Norman as lead singer. After a few months, Richard Miller replaced Ellison on bass, before Kemp's younger brother Martin Kemp took over the role a couple of years later. By this time, the band had already gained some live experience. Steve Dagger, a close school friend of the band members, was asked by Norman and Gary Kemp to manage them. He was to be an integral part of the band's success. The band changed its name to The Makers in late 1976, and played as a punk band at the Roxy in their early years. In 1978 they became a power pop band, and changed the name to Gentry, under which they played a few gigs, including at Kingsway College. They changed the band's name to Spandau Ballet after a friend of the band, journalist and DJ Robert Elms, saw the phrase, Spandau Ballet, scrawled on the wall of a nightclub lavatory during a visit to Berlin. The expression, Spandau Ballet, was slang used by Allied troops in the trenches in the First World War, referring to the twitching of the corpses hanging on the barbed wire and repeatedly hit by Spandau machine gun fire from the German lines. The name also refers to Spandau prison and the many hangings there, especially in 1945-46 of Nazi war criminals, when those being hanged would twitch and jump at the end of a rope. The new Spandau Ballet, with Martin Kemp and Hadley, began performing with this name around London. Their music had been in the style of the early Rolling Stones or the Kinks, but became more electronic after they attended clubs such as Billy's and Blitz, where the new romantic scene was spearheaded, and they listened to bands like Kraftwerk and Telex. Spandau Ballet was involved in a major bidding war, but signed to Chrysalis Records and released To Cut a Long Story Short, produced by the electronic musician Richard James Burgess. Released 10 days after the band emerged from the studio, To Cut a Long Story Short became a top 5 hit in late 1980. This was followed by further top 20 hits with The Freeze, Musclebound, and the gold-certified debut album Journeys to Glory in 1981. The follow-up album, Diamond, also produced by Burgess, was released in 1982. This album was certified gold by the BPI, and featured the funk-flavored top 3 hit, Chant No. 1. The band had Burgess remix every single from both albums for inclusion on each single's B-side and for 12-inch club releases. These mixes were later released as a boxed set. However, the second single from Diamond was Paint Me Down, which broke their run of top 20 hits by stalling at number 30. The third single, She Loved Like Diamond, failed to make the UK top 40 at all. Trevor Horn remixed the track, Instinction, which was released as the fourth single from the album, backed with a special dance remix of Chant No. 1 on the 12-inch single version. The release was very well received. It returned the band to the UK top 10 after the poor chart performance of their previous two singles. The group also had success in the United States when Chant No. 1 peaked at number 17 on the dance charts in 1981. 1983, 1989, True, Parade, and Through the Barricades. The band released their third album, True, in March 1983. Produced by Tony Swain and Steve Jolly, the album featured a slicker pop sound. It was at this point that Steve Norman began playing saxophone for the band, preceded by the title track, which reached number 1 in various countries. The album also reached number 1 in the UK. The next single, Gold, reached number 2. The follow-up album, Parade, was released in June 1984, and its singles were again big successes in the charts in Europe, Oceania and Canada. The album's opening song, Only When You Leave, became the band's last American hit. At the end of 1984, the band performed on the Band Aid charity single, and in 1985 performed at Wembley Stadium as part of Live Aid. During this same year, Spandau Ballet achieved platinum status with the compilation The Singles Collection, which kept the focus on the band between studio albums and celebrated its 5 years of success. However, the album was released by Chrysalis Records without the band's approval, and the band instigated legal action against the label. In 1986, Spandau Ballet signed to CBS Records and released the album Through the Barricades, in which the band moved away from the pop and soul influences of True and Parade and more toward rock. Though the first single, Fight for Ourselves, peaked at 15 in the UK, the title track and the album both reached the top 10 in the UK and Europe. After a hiatus from recording, the band released their next album, Heart Like a Sky, in September 1989. The album and its singles were unsuccessful in the UK, and the album itself was not released in the United States. However, it did well in Italy, where its singles, Raw and Be Free With Your Love, reached the top 10, and also in Belgium and the Netherlands. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.